This time to end this is now. The Democrats have in front of them a proposal with legislative text that would allow us to get DHS back and opened up again. And it is essentially what the Democrats have been asking for. And so we're going to have an opportunity to vote on that, and I hope they will put their money where their mouth is, and if they are sincere about actually getting DHS opened up again, that they'll provide the votes and work with us in order to make that happen. On the other issue, the Save America Act now has been on the floor for some time, and it is an issue on which, as we pointed out before, there is overwhelming public support among and across all kinds of demographic groups, age, political party, gender, you name it. Democrat, Republican, overwhelming support for the Save America Act. The Democrats said, Chuck Schumer said out here last week, that they support voter ID. Well, we're going to give them an opportunity to evidence that by putting it up for a vote. Later I'll be filing an amendment that would require photo ID, and we'll see what the Democrats do. What happened last week, as you all know, Senator Husted from Ohio offered a very straightforward voter ID amendment, which was blocked on the floor by the Democrats, and furthermore, wasn't just blocked, it was actually the Democrat, Senator Merkley from Oregon, offered a counter-proposal that specifically would ban voter ID across this country, and actually something that 36 states already have in place. So this is an issue on which there is broad agreement with the public, and obviously we're going to give the Democrats an opportunity to vote on that one particular issue, and that is whether or not people ought to have to show some form of identification when they go to vote. So that's the schedule for the balance of this week, and hopefully we'll have cooperation from Democrats to end the government shutdown.
Mr. Leader, good afternoon. Thank you. Don't you risk alienating some of your base if you're unable to pass the Save America Act and the idea that this could go into budget reconciliation that everybody around here, including you, has indicated that that's very hard to do? Isn't that just kind of a wing and a prayer?
I think the budget reconciliation, as I've said before, you have to have a reason to do it. And if we have reasons to do it, and we may, very well may, and I think there are a number of our colleagues in the Senate, we just came out of a luncheon where this was discussed, and I think there's a lot of support for a budget reconciliation bill. We have two legislative vehicles, as you know, available to us, so we could tee one of those up, and that's an option. And we'll see if that's what it takes to get some of these things across the finish line, and we can do it with simple majorities. We'll take a hard look at that.
Did you overpromise your base, though?
If you do pursue reconciliation to pass elements of the SAVE Act, do you commit to abiding by the parliamentarians' advice on what can and cannot be in there, or might you overrule her if you disagree?
Well, we had, as you know, many conversations with the parliamentarian during the budget reconciliation bill that passed last summer. And I would expect that. That's an iterative process and a back and forth, sometimes trading back different ideas to see what works. But obviously the parliamentarian has a role to play in that process, and in the past we have respected it, and I would expect we would do that.
What is your level of optimism right now that this can be done by the end of the week?
It depends. It's really in the hands of the Democrats. We're ready to move, and we believe that the legislative text is available. With consent, we could get on it, and we could do it today.
The president rejected a plan similar to this over the weekend. Why did he change his mind now?
Well, I think there are. I mean, obviously, maybe you can just say that my colleagues were more persuasive than I was, but I think the arguments have been made, and clearly that. What we are doing here, and thanks to his work last summer and our work last summer, we pre-funded a lot of the ICE budget. And ICE agents right now and CBP agents are being paid, even though TSA is not. And that's because we pre-funded that from last summer. And so I think that, coupled with the fact that we also have possibility of a budget reconciliation bill, if we need to plus that up above and beyond what's already available, I think the president evidently was persuaded by those arguments. So
why wait until day 39 to give Democrats what they wanted, like you said? Why not do this earlier? And then what does that mean for ICE reform conversations with Democrats moving forward?
Well, I mean, I think that's going to be up to them. the reform, honestly, this has all been about reforms that they said they wanted, and we have repeatedly showed up. They have repeatedly backed away, including over this last weekend. And it became very clear to us that they really weren't interested in reforms. So if they want reforms, then they ought to figure out how to help fully fund ICE. ICE will be partially funded. CBP will be funded under this proposal. But if they want to have a conversation about some of the reform ideas that they had put in front of us, then that would be contingent upon actually providing funding for ICE. And so we'll see how they react to that, but we're ready to move, and it's really going to be incumbent upon them. If DHS is going to open up and we're going to have TSA agents starting to get paid again before the weekend, it's the ball's in the Democrats' court. Thank you.